Well, good day, folks, and welcome back to the Secret Solve. Sorry for that interruption, but when nature calls, it calls. So today we've been talking about the Job Goblin, the Opus Pocus, the Great Disappearing Jobs Act of the 1980s. And so on page 198, 199, I will pick up the discussion where I left off. So I talked about John Ball, who basically I thought maybe had a connection to the 1700s relationship. And I was looking into the On the Waterfront because Johnny Friendly was mentioned in here. And so it received 12 Academy Award nominations and won 8, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Marlon Brando, a supporting actress for Saint. Oh no, not a saint. I guess I'll have to go through this a little bit better. So the movie is basically about the dock worker, waterfront. Johnny Friendly's the character's name, and so the guy, Father Barry, makes an impassioned speech reminding the longshoremen that Christ walks among them, saying that every murder is a crucifixion. Okay, so it's a story about some waterfront stuff. Um, Somebody gets indicted. The longshoremen refuse to work unless Terry is allowed to work as well. And Jabez's father pushes Friendly into the river when he tries to bully the men. Father Barry tells a badly injured Terry that he lost the battle, but has a chance to win the war if he can walk into the warehouse. To stand before the warehouse, where the boss nods to Terry and tells them to get to work. The men follow Terry inside, ignoring Friendly as he lashes out with empty threats with his fists. The door closes behind them, leaving Friendly out in the cold. Okay, so somebody gets thrown in the river, but they get out, but they're not let back in. Oh, okay. So Natalie Wood gets thrown off the boat. Never mind. Okay, so again, I was saying that my Malcolm X connection might be correct here because the fact that Malcolm Johnson was an invested journalist of the 40s and 50s. His 24-part series in the New York Sun, Crime on the Waterfront, won the Pulitzer Prize for local reporting, of which this 1954 movie was based upon. Marlon Brando. Well, I guess we got to go Marlon Brando. So old Brando, again, he's going to be another one of these guys, and I'm starting to fall into the Oracle of Omaha problem right now because I think he could have been one of the captains of industry or the corporate giants. And here we have Brando, who was raised in Omaha, Nebraska in the 40s, moved to New York City. Uh, so yeah, I don't like Brando now because he's giving me more information. The So he was born to Marlon Brando Sr., a pesticide and chemical feed manufacturer. Well, we talked earlier about Dow Chemical Company. We talked about Monsanto, and we talked about those. And his wife's Brando's Sr.'s wife's name was Dorothy Julia Pennebaker. Well, that doesn't help me any at all because Pennebaker, we're talking about the roll, this sweet roll, this honey bun. Maybe Dorothy Julia Pennebaker is our honey bun. And obviously, the Wizard of Oz main character is Dorothy, right? So Brando had some older sisters. It's mostly German, Dutch, and Irish. Uh, he is also a descendant of Louise Dubois, a French Huguenot. Brando was raised as a Christian Scientist. We've had a few Christian Scientologists in our book, and we've had a few Mormons in our book, and we have a few people that are dressed in these robes. Brando Sr. eventually joined AA, and we talked about Alcoholics Anonymous in a previous story. The three children ended up landing in Santa Ana, California. Uh, by the next year, they had moved to Libertyville, Illinois. Liberty, Liberty, Liberty. A small town south of Chicago. Chicago. So Marlon Brando. Anyway, between 39 and 41, he worked as an usher at the town's only movie theater called the Liberty. Oh, Brand! I knew Brando was gonna give me something. So he attended he attended Libertyville High School. No, so he ends up in New York and becomes an actor at the new school. Okay, so I've always wanted to talk about the new school in New York, and I was just the Actors Guild, the Screen Actors Guild school in New York. Yeah, I've got too much in this one to invest in talking about it here, but uh, so Brando used his Stanislavski system skills for his first summer stock roles in Sayville, New York on Long Island. So, the new school it's interesting if you look into who all went to the new school and this whole idea of method acting. I think this new school is called the Actors Studio or something like that. It has an address in New York if you want to look it up. And I was always trying to figure out, well, maybe if they're throwing all these actors in front of us, we need to see how many of them went to the actors studio. And I hate to tell you, but James Dean, actors school. A few of these people went to the method acting school in New York. Uh, I guess, I mean, mostly you had to go there in order to get your career launched, I would imagine. So, all right, so there's old Brando. Um, he's done so many things. He was so active. The Godfather, obviously, Brando. Um, well, his filmography is kind of hard. So he was trouble with obesity his entire life, and he gained a great deal of weight in the 70s. Oh, well, okay. Personal life. In 1976, he told a French journalist, "Homosexuality is so much in fashion, it no longer makes news. Like a large number of men, I too have had homosexual experiences, and I am not ashamed. I have never paid much attention to what people think about me. But if there is someone who is convinced that Jack Nicholson and I are lovers, uh, may they continue to do so. I find it amusing." Okay, so there's this whole thing. Brando says that he met Marilyn Monroe at a party where she played piano, unnoticed by anyone else there that they had an affair and maintained an intermittent relationship for many years. And then he received a telephone call from her several days before she died. He also claimed numerous other romances, although he did not discuss his marriages, his wives, and his children in his autobiography. So apparently, the tell-all Marlon Brando book did not actually tell all. All right, I branded myself to death. So let's get off of Brando. So uh, the did did Eva Marie Saint. Eva Marie Saint is an American actress, film, theater, radio. Had a 70-year career. She was in this movie on the waterfront. Uh, she's a New Jersey girl. She attended Bowling Green State University. Oh, well, maybe we just need to go to Bowling Green. She was Thelma in Horton Foote's The Trip to Bountiful in 1953. Uh, she was born in Newark, Quaker. Her father was John Merle Saint, and her mother was Eva Marie Rice. Uh, Delmar, New York, Bowling Green, NBC Page. She started out working at NBC. Then she appeared in Life magazine. Was in the On the Waterfront. Kind of launched her career. Then she was in the movie North by Northwest with Cary Grant, James Mason. Uh, Later career returned to the big screen. Nothing in Common in 1986 by So she was kind of, I guess, washed up maybe by the 80, 82. Personal life. She married producer Jeffrey Hayden. They had two children. Her first child was born 2 days after she won that Academy Award for her role. Okay, I think I'm done with her. What else do we have? The Green Man. Well, I don't know. The Green Man is a symbol of rebirth, representing the cycle of new growth that occurs every spring. Uh, and so that's the archetype for the Green Man. But if the Green Man is really Raymond Robinson, otherwise known as the Green Man, uh, Raymond Theodore Robinson. I always like when we find a Theodore. He was a distinguished American man whose years of nightmare walks made him into a figure of urban legend in western Pennsylvania. Robinson was so severely injured in a childhood electrical accident that he could not go out in public without fear of causing for long walks at night. Local tourists would drive along his road in hopes of meeting the Green Man or Charlie No Face. So when Raymond Robinson was 8 years old, he was by an electrical line as he climbed a pole and reached for a bird's nest on the Morado Bridge outside of Beaver Falls. The bridge carried a trolley and had electric lines of both 1,200 and 22,000 volts, which were responsible for the death of another boy less than a year earlier. Robinson survived, defying doctors' expectations, but he was severely disfigured in his eyes, nose, and right arm. Well, those are some interesting body parts, eerily similar to some other injuries that somebody received from a bullet. Robinson became a local myth in the Pittsburgh area. So the Green Man, I think the Green Man is actually on this wire, this electrical wire that's hanging off the bridge, an image on page 199. And so I actually think that is the Green Man hanging off of that thing. I also think the train in this image and the railroad bridge, this all happened on a railroad bridge, is illustrative of this event of the Raymond Robinson Green Man situation. So when you tie the information in the text about the Green Man to the illustration over here, you find that part of that image is about the Green Man and his little trolley train problem. Uh, there's a light shining up from the cow catcher on the train, uh, eerily similar to a movie theater type of lighting of illumination. The beam that one of the workers is sitting on is an H beam. And I mentioned earlier that I found that one of the hospitals that was built was in the shape of an H, and there is an H in the word Hollywood. And that H, by the way, is kind of positioned in this image on the side of the hill, as if that beam is on the side of a hill. The guy with the helmet is holding a spanner wrench. I'm not going to continue to harp on the Crescent Tool Company and how any visible signs of a spanner wrench in anything is important to the solve. If you look at the actual trellis bridge structure that the train is on, it is kind of similar to the way in which some other signs are displayed. We have two flaming out airplanes that look like they're going to crash in the image. So we probably should look somewhere where something is about to crash. One of the workers is holding 3 tickets or 3 cards, it looks like. If they're cards and it's a card game, then obviously we have more options for that. The other guy back here is holding some sort of, I think, notebook, and then the other one is holding a bottle of something. I don't know if he's drinking, and the one guy is holding up I don't know what he's holding up, a box of bills or something. So there's a lot going on in the image down here. And so I think that Perard was kind of basically in charge of putting together some of these drawings. And then there's a sleeping guy in here as well. That's kind of sleeping. And so uh, I don't know. The Hawkman comic is what's being the Hawkman comic is the one that's being read here, and I'm wondering if the story, if you add that to the fact that you've got the guy on the line on the bridge of a train, if you add the fact that you then follow that down to the Hawkman, you get the illustrative information to put together a whole entire uh, story of the guy that got disfigured from the uh, trying to rescue a bird. Hawkman is the name of several superheroes appearing in the American comic books published by DC Comics. Several incarnations of Hawkman have appeared in DC Comics. Hawkman is most often depicted as a human archaeologist, Carter Hall, the modern day reincarnation of ancient Egyptian prince named Khufu, or as a Thanagarian police officer, Cotter Hall, from the planet of Thanagar. The character is generally regarded as having one of the most confusing backstories of any DC comic due to a series of reinventions over the years following DC's in the 1985 series Crisis. Well, that's after the fact, but Part 79 TV special Legends of the Superheroes, uh, appearing alongside Adam West and Burt Ward as the allies of Batman and Robin. Hawkman was later portrayed as Michael Shanks in Small. Oh, that's later. So Hawkman first appeared in Flash Comics in '40 and was maybe the clue here is just DC, that it's DC Comics. I mean, maybe I'm just going into too much detail on this one, and that it's really just DC Comics. I think maybe that's it. I think I'm just gonna stop there because I think we're just talking about maybe DC Comics, and that DC is the clue of the Hawkman. So the Hawkman magazine might just be DC Comics is the clue. Okay, talked about the Green Man. Well, who's the Jody? So Jody the Milkman. Who's Jody the Milkman? Well, Jody the Milkman could be just about anybody. Could be the milkman, could be the delivery driver, etc. Um, but we know Jody the Milkman is basically the guy that could have fathered your brother, and it's the guy that the stay-at-home woman in a one-income family, when the Joe is down at the dock working, or Joe's out on the police car, or Joe's out working and making a 9 to 5 job, Jody's at home playing around with the delivery guy. And so that's the whole milkman gig, and how it works. Uh, so the plot of the Milkman from 1950s was that Roger Bradley is denied a milkman job at his father's company because of his post-war trauma. When he becomes stressed or frustrated, he quacks like a dog. In revenge, Roger secures a job with his father's arch rival, Breezy Albright, at another milk company. Roger becomes very successful and quickly falls in love with the boss's daughter. Yeah, I don't know. Jimmy Durante was in this one, though. He actually starred as Breezy Albright, the owner of the rival company. So that's your Jody the Milkman. What's next? Oh, that's a nothing. Oh, the coffee maker. Oh, the coffee maker. So the coffee maker was kind of mentioned earlier, and Melita Benz invented the first coffee maker in the 1870s, and by 1950, the company in Europe, I think it's London, I think it's England. So this is the drip coffee maker. Uh, that group was making millions. But I think they're actually referring to Mr. Coffee because the automatic drip coffee maker was invented and popularized by Mr. Coffee in the 1970s. The machine works the same way as Benson's coffee filter by dripping hot water through a finely ground filter paper. In an automatic drip coffee maker, however, the reservoir is first filled with cold water, followed by heat from a heating. The boiling causes the steam to rise and a tube and condense. So I think they're actually talking about this particular iteration of the coffee maker, the mystery. And so Mr. Coffee was originally made by Vincent Marotta Sr. and Samuel Glazer. Well, we were introduced to Samuel Gompers earlier, and so here's another Samuel, and it's a Samuel Lewis Glazer, and so this is probably the guy we need to key in on. Uh, they founded a company in Cleveland, Ohio, by the way, and so they founded a company in Cleveland, Ohio. So that's where your Mr. Coffee comes from. Former professional baseball player Joe DiMaggio, Jolton Joe, was one of the endorsers of this product in 1973. The coffee maker sold more than 1 million units by April of 1974. In the 80s, Mr. Coffee was bought. I don't know if it was I don't know how early in the 80s. But Mr. Coffee, another Cleveland invention. And the reason I mention this is the authors and the people involved in The Secret could have picked anything to talk about. They could have talked about, I don't know, the weather. They could have talked about something else, but they wanted to talk about coffee. And so I just think that they could have said a percolator, but instead, I think they were trying to tell you about Mr. Coffee, and you had to figure out where Mr. Coffee was. Okay, I talked about Green Man. Okay, so I am going to circle back to John Deere. So we all know Deere, since I did a 2-part episode. So he ends up on the Rock River in Illinois, and his factory named the L. Andrus Plow Factory. And so plow, it was spelled Ploug. And in the book, they're spelling it Plwman. So he formed a partnership with Roger Tate and John Gould and built a facility in Moline, Illinois. So you got the Moline, Illinois, John Deere founding the whole story of of that. Famously in 1960, in the 1960s, John Deere flew in a whole bunch of people to Dallas, Texas, for a sales meeting, and they almost shut the town down. So John Deere dealers and key employees came to Dallas via the largest commercial airlift of its type ever attempted. During the 24 hours leading up to the event, 16 airlines brought Deere employees and salespeople from all over the United States and Canada to Love Field in Dallas. Bill Hewitt, the chairman and CEO of Deere & Company, welcomed the dealers and introduced the new tractors. Hewitt told the guests that they were about to see, quote, a line of entirely new tractors, completely modern in every respect, with outstanding features not duplicated in any other make of the tractor. So, this was, I guess, in 1960. So so they had over 6,000 guests. The equipment, the deal was at the Dallas Memorial Auditorium and at the Texas State Fairgrounds and the Cotton Bowl. So it took up all of these places. During the event, a new John Deere tractor with a diamond-covered nameplate was displayed for all to see inside Neiman Marcus, a popular Dallas-based department store. Okay, well, there's a little about John Deere. International Harvester invented the Reaper, Leander J. McCormick, Chicago. James Deering, The Deering Harvester Company is the son of the founder of the Deering Company. He was Coconut Grove district of Miami, Florida. Uh, he didn't do much other than live off of his parents' money. Oh, I guess he was in the Navy Academy. Charles Deering was born in South Paris, Maine, son of William Deering, U.S. Naval Academy, Annapolis. Him and his brother were running the company in Chicago. His father retired in 1902, and J.P. Morgan financed the deal that combined the Deering Company with McCormick, thereby starting International Harvester. Beginning around 1890, the William Deerings began wintering in Florida, first around St. Augustine and later in the vicinity of Miami. So here's the Deerings are interested in South Florida. There might be something in here. Charles Deering was also a member of the famous Jekyll Island Club, which is a millionaires club, which is on Jekyll Island in the Georgia Atlantic coast. Well, none of these people died tragically. Okay, we talked about William Deering. The honey bun. I'm going to circle back to the honey bun and wrap this up. I probably identified the honey bun earlier because they called it a sweet bun. And I think I just needed to find the honey bun. And the honey bun is attributed to 1954 in Greensboro, North Carolina, when Howard Griffin of the Griffin Pie Company threw out the honey bun. Since then, the honey buns are also a currency in the United States prisons, where they have sold from prison commissaries. In the state of Florida, 270,000 are sold per month as of 2010. In a highly publicized instance, honey buns were used by guards in Miami to pay for the beating of a teenager in a youth detention center. It resulted in the teen's death. Referring to the case, public defender was quoted as saying, "I'm here, a honey bun. Oh, in jail, a honey bun is like $1 million." Okay, so the history of the honey bun. I think it might be the honey bun, honestly. Well, I think it might be the honey bun. Honey bun, honey bun. Okay, Greensboro, North Carolina. I don't know where that puts you, but that's where the honey bun showed up. All right, folks, that's part 2 of the episode. Encourage you to look into the Job Goblins. I think the H on the beam over here, an H beam, most people call that an I beam. See, if you were to actually use that beam in construction, I don't think it would be used in that configuration. Nor, if you wanted to comfortably sit on that beam, you wouldn't be sitting on it that way. Okay, folks, I'll be back, or I won't.